Hello, everyone, and welcome to this episode of Sip and Scholar, a podcast where we uncork new knowledge. Today, I am here with the best person ever, Dr. Young Choi, who is an assistant professor of early childhood education. And I'm also joined by some soju because Dr. Young Choi is Korean, and I was like, we gotta have this.
Yes.
I've never actually had it, so I don't know if it's
Really?
good.
We had it before, my birthday.
That's true.
Yeah, it's good.
That's good.
Thanks.
Okay,
Yeah, thanks.
that's true. I have had it before.
Yes.
She did kind of cheat a little bit and put water on her glass.
No,
but-
I drank it all.
But I met Dr. Yang Choi in 2020 when she moved to Las Vegas. And the first time I talked to her, it was virtually because, of course, 2020. And she told me she had a son. And I had just given birth. So I was like, oh my God, we need to like schedule a play date. Until I realized that her son's 20 years old. She looks my age.
No, but I
Yes.
appreciate that. Yeah. This is really
Is it good?
delicious. Yeah, cheers.
Yay,
Yeah.
cheers, cheers. And we've also had so many great opportunities to work together. We are on a grant together, the Futuro Project grant, which is great to work with her on that one. I would love for you to talk a little bit about the work we're doing in the grant. And also, as a mom, and you know, she's an assistant professor of early childhood. As a mom, I've been always asking questions, right? Because I feel like you always have the best answers. And so a lot of the questions that I'm posing today come, I think, not only from being a scholar, but also being a mom and having that opportunity that not a lot of us have to talk to someone who specializes on our precious little ones.
Thanks for having me.
Of
Yeah,
course.
I was looking forward to it.
Oh, she was. She's here out of obligation. Oh, this is delicious.
This is delicious. Yes,
This
it's
is
a
really
little
good.
sweet, but I like it. It's
Awesome.
better than shot, I think.
Oh, definitely, definitely. I'm trying. It's 13% alcohol per volume. Wow. You can't taste it. Okay, so I want to know a little bit about how your career started in early childhood education.
I was a part-time instructor at the university when I was in Korea, and I taught really just general English and prepare for TOEFL, TOEIC, things like that in the university, because in Korea English is a big deal still and was. So everyone mandatory to take a introduction English. So there were a lot of opportunity after I got a TESOL master degree. I got a chance to work with university students. I actually came to the United States, just got another master about ESL because I thought that I'm going to go back to Korea and continue being a part-time instructor or something like
Yeah.
that. But I got greedy during my master in Texas A&M University, and then I was kind of fascinated about how my learning English, the journey of it, and how my my son, how he kind of create his own journey learning English. He was actually 10 years old when we first came. And so I kind of fascinated about different learning English, different age and different environment, because I was completely in the academic area. So my English was just like a classroom English. My son's is completely more everyday communication with friends. So I kind of fascinated about those different journey. And then when I decide to PhD study, okay, maybe I want to learn more about children's English language learning. So that's how it started. And then unfortunately, I got a job at the preschool, university-based lab school at the University of Buffalo during my PhD study. So I worked in the preschool. I was a preschool teacher for 2 years in the university-based lab school and Head Start classrooms.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, that's awesome. That's really cool. I think you said something that resonated with me, and I think it also resonates with a lot of other people in our field where we come to the U.S. to do a PhD and then we end up not with the intention of going back, right?
Yeah.
But so many opportunities end up coming, and then it's really nice to have you as a colleague. So I'm very happy that you ended up at Nevada.
The PhD is so much commitment. I
It
don't know. I'm
is.
not recommend to anyone, but
It is a lot of commitment,
Yeah.
yeah. It definitely is a lot of commitment, but at the end, it does pay off, and now, we get to work
Really?
together. I think so, yeah.
Yes.
We're working, I think about like the opportunities that we've had working with the grant together, and Dr. Young Choi is the principal investigator of a $2.1 million grant that got awarded about early childhood education with multilingual students. So we collaborate on that grant, and those opportunities are unique
Exactly.
in higher ed.
Yes, yes. And I hope we kind of make a positive impact on children and families
Yeah.
and teachers also. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
So tell us a little bit about, since I just mentioned the grant, some of the grant activities and purpose of the grant.
So the purpose is, to improve early literacy because the teachers are struggling. A lot of English learners population in the United States. I'll just call English learner, but I prefer multilingual or emergent bilingual. Those children, the increase of number of those children in the classroom actually teachers because they don't have enough support and material from the district usually, and then they don't know what to do with those children. They want to help, but they don't know what's the best practice
Yeah.
would be. So we want to help those teachers for their family and for the children because they will be our future.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yes. So that's the purpose of main purpose, and we will provide 4 times of professional development a year and year-long coaching, a lot of material and bilingualism, second language acquisition we are going to introduce to the teachers. And also science of reading. That means what's the evidence-based practice already proven, interdisciplinary research. So we're going to provide what works for the children, how they learn to read. So that's what we're going to do.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think this is an amazing goal that we have, and we've been on the planning year. We're starting now with all the other grant activities, but just on the planning year, I think there's been such great impact in the communities and with families. We've been able to give away so many books, thousands of books, which is
Yes,
really
yeah,
awesome,
right.
and connected to the community in many ways. Dr. Young and I were also on the news.
Do search it. Yeah.
I'll put the description link below. No, I'm kidding. Oh my God, that's funny. So this is a question that comes mostly from me being a mom. And this is a question that I've asked you before. But the question is, when I'm looking at programs to put my daughter in, right? Or to put your child in, when you're looking for those programs, what are some important questions that parents should be asking, for example, directors or teachers?
So for me, what you kind of prioritize and what the center prioritize is supposed to align.
Okay.
If you want your child to have a good social relationship and play-based curriculum, you need to find the center kind of align with what you believe. If you prioritize your religion, then you're probably going to find the kind of same religion-based school.
Yeah.
So what's your belief? I think that you need to question yourself first, based on how old your child is. Like a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, probably just before kindergarten would be different. You want your child to prepare for the kindergarten, but before that, then do you want usually a lot of play-based curriculum, early childhood education you could find, but you also could find a different kind of detail about um, exploration about art, or going to some community event or field trip or other variety of experience if the center can provide, or you like to have that kind of experiences. So find what you want for your child, and then find a center aligned with your belief.
Okay, those are really good things to look out for. And like you mentioned, we really do need to start with maybe making a list of what our priorities are, right? I remember when I was looking for one, I toured one, and in the tour they told me that, granted, this was a daycare, and they told me that they would start with geometry in first grade. And I was like, oh my goodness, I'm sure that for some parents that seems ideal, but I'm like, no, I kind of want my girl to, my daughter to have a more um, I don't want to use the word pleasant, but a better introduction to mathematics than
By Rachel.
yeah, it should be like fun, right? Like at this stage, for me, I prioritize playing, right? I prioritize those social skills that I think are very important. But at the same time, you see other children who are going through other programs, and that, at least for me, it becomes more of like, oh, should I be looking out for these things, or academically? So, for example, academically, what are some things that you should be looking for?
So you mentioned about developmentally appropriate
Yeah.
practice, like for a 3-year-old introducing geometry. It could be really fun activity, but if the center's approach is about with the worksheet,
Yeah.
are you okay with it?
Yeah.
So looking at the approach, we can do geometry with a lot of different shapes.
Yeah.
Play with the shape, jumping on the shape,
Yeah.
things like
Yeah.
that. But you don't want, or you want with the worksheet, or all the
Yeah.
time with the worksheet.
Yeah.
Worksheet might be good to how to hold pencil, things like that. But you don't want every time with the worksheet. So
Yeah.
just thinking about how they approach to learning. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good recommendation. I mean, a good thing to look forward to, seeing what are the things, or maybe even observing a class, see how the students are engaging,
And
if
then
that's a
also looking at
possibility.
the artifacts that you bring your child to bring into the home.
Okay, we're back. We had a little bit of a fan emergency. This ring light really generates some heat, y'all.
Really? Oh gosh. And refill my drink.
Okay, so we were talking. We mentioned that there's it's important for you to basically look at what are the most important things that you want your child to take away, and also to look at the artifacts that they're bringing home, maybe looking at the mission of the place. For me, one of the things that I really looked at, and more this is something that's it's being hard to find, are small classroom sizes. So with that, what would you say is the ideal classroom size that you would want your child to be in?
So there is a guideline. NACI is a National Association for Education of Young Children. It's most representative or popular kind of association. So NACI recommend one teacher, one adult, and 4 children, infant case.
Okay.
For toddlers, 1:6 ratio. For pre-K, it's a 1:10 ratio. So if one classroom had one adult and 10 children, or 2 adults, like one lead teacher and one assistant teacher, and 20 children, that actually fit the ratio, recommended
Okay.
ratio. but there is also recommended a classroom, the space,
Okay.
physical
Like
space.
square footage.
But I don't think a lot of classrooms are kind of fit that way. And also, it's hard to find how you measure,
Okay.
So
Do
I
you,
guess it's more like how you organize a classroom. So what I'm saying is they actually research said that there's how to organize a classroom is more important than the physical size of a space of the classroom.
okay.
So it's more structured, different center, and also music center and library should not be, they're side by side, because the children need to read in a kind of a quiet place, but you don't want like a music place right next to the library. So those kind of intentional, mindful arrangement would be great to look at. And if they have different centers, because of different experience, children need to do it. It's everything about exploration and then learning and play with it. That's actually really helpful for the young children to learn and develop. So different centers, that's why we need science and math and like a play, pretend play, and also library, and also whole classroom kind of circle area.
Okay. So I think that's another good thing to look for when you are a parent looking, or a family member or someone, caregiver, looking at where to put your child, would be how classrooms are arranged. And I hadn't thought of that. So I think a good question for a teacher could be like, can you give me a tour of the classroom? And then you can look at what the centers look like. You
Yeah.
can even specifically ask, do you have a reading center? Can I
Yeah.
look at the books that you
Yes.
have there?
And also ask, what's the purpose of this arrangement? Do you have any, the purpose of this arrangement? They might have children with a disability, so that's why they make the hallway bigger than normal, or the wheelchair accessible to the classroom, things like that. So they might have a different kind of a purpose or goal in that classroom arrangement.
So my question is, if there's these guidelines by NACI about the student to teacher ratio, is it mandatory for schools to follow that ratio?
Yes.
Okay.
So as far as I know, maybe I'm wrong. The square footage is not mandatory, I guess.
Okay.
But when you get the inspection, you need to have teachers.
Okay.
Like, yes. And then teachers should not, or the children should not be alone without teacher and supervision. So that's why we always need assistant teacher or adult, just in case the teachers are like going to the bathroom with the child, just something like that happens. The children are supposed to have someone to supervise them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm wondering now, like, are those requirements, because there's a lot of facilities that are private facilities, do they also have to, they don't, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
especially home care. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, my daughter currently goes to a home care, and what you're talking is not what she's experiencing, but she's 2, and it's like I'm leaving her with her tia, basically, right? Like an aunt. So I know she's in great hands. But I have toured other places that are private because we don't have universal pre-K. It's time we do, though. And those private places that I've been looking at, I definitely either see more of a teacher, a student number than teacher, or maybe those considerations not being looked at. So I think it is important for all of us to at least know what the base guidelines are, and to
Yeah, you can visit the naci.org. Heard from other parents that that's a good tip, but it's opinion piece. So as a parent, I recommend you to find what's its established guideline or what their expert recommendation are.
Yeah.
So don't sway by just opinion. You know what I'm saying? Opinion is important, but it's opinion, you know. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Looking at the nacy.org will be good. They have a really easy reading everything recommendation, what to do in the classroom or at home. So it's easy
okay.
to read everything. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So the next question that I have for you, I think comes from also this similar discussion of what should a child be doing in preschool. And the reason I ask this is because, for example, I told you about this private pre-K daycare that I toured, and they were doing geometry in pre-K, right? And I also toured others that are focusing on reading at a very, very early, like a 2.5-year-olds are starting, they're starting to teach them how to read and teaching them all these things, right? But we know that some of these skills are actually not recommendable to be taught at such an early age. Like, for example, the math example, you can find ways to teach it that make it more appropriate, but we really should be focusing that at a later stage. Same thing with letters. Should a pre-K child be taught their ABCs 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s and how to write their name? Like, what are the skills that we should be focusing on at this stage?
So, first of all, I will emphasize every child develop differently. Their developmental pace, pace is different. Some child develop really fast, walk by himself or herself really, early, like 8 months. Some child start working, 15 months. So their speaking also, the developmental is really different. So every child supposed to be analyzed by her own developmental pace, not compared to, a child next door is far better. So mindful about that because it will make you nervous. Yes, it will make you nervous. But if you are nervous about that, you definitely need to talk to the teacher or the doctors. But I know you have that question. So the preschool. The children actually have ability to learn everything. That's why we are saying the children can speak 3 languages, 4 languages, as long as they expose that in that environment early enough, right? So that's the same as math and language, like ABC letters, I believe. I'm not saying sit down doing the math problem, that's appropriate, but if we provide that opportunity in a playful way, in an engaging way, then I think that's completely okay to teach. And some 3-year-old children, the letters, for example, you mentioned the song and ABC 1 to 5. Yes, 3 completely they are capable of that. Yes. And then play with the shapes. Yes, that's also appropriate. What I'm trying to kind of focusing on what's developmentally appropriate rather than like a geometry is really scary, but play with the shape is not scary, right? So the approach to the learning, I think you need to look at that.
Okay.
Yeah, not like some kids are really good at ABC and all the sound early enough. Some are struggling more. It's okay. If someone struggle more, we provide more scaffolding, more opportunity to play with it. So yes, looking at the developmental level and at the same time, don't scare about introducing new academic skill. And then we'll see how your child take it. And then you can kind of lower down if your child struggle. And if your child are really good at that, then you can move forward.
Yeah.
Yeah, but introduce it developmentally appropriate way. So your child is not gonna, my God, I'm not gonna do mom. So yeah, so developmentally, what I'm saying is a playful, engaging way, not like, okay, you're gonna sit down, let's do this. That's not good for them to expose to the academic skills
Yeah.
because they're gonna really kind of, oh my God, stressed out.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah. No, that's a really good point. And I think for us, we need to, that for me, the play-based learning was very important when looking for care. And because I think part of the reason this question came about is because I do see that we accelerate kids too much nowadays, right? And there's like this pressure to go, 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 and you need to learn all of this stuff at such a young, early age that it becomes almost like a race, and kids can get burned out too. So that's something also to consider. We want our child to learn, but in a stress-free environment, not that they're coming back home crying or feeling upset or feeling overwhelmed, all these other feelings that can come when we try to push them a little too hard too soon.
Yeah, I think that's a good point because in Korea we start everything early, and my son did not like. I'm not gonna learn English, mom. Like he said that he hates to go to any Hagwon private institute. So everything, yes, like you said, everything is so competitive and like academic is the best way you could do. Then a lot of children will kind of stressed out. So that's a good point. Yes.
And also, I mean, I am a mother raising a child in this social media world where we're seeing so many parent influencers now. And I think that would be a great paper to write on, just saying, like, parent influencers, how are they actually influencing the way that we raise our own children? There's many pages out there that offer really good advice, but there's other pages that offer terrible advice, right? And when you don't know, you can take this advice or compare your child to others on social media, and it becomes this circle of almost toxicity, right? Look at this child is doing all these things, or other things like this family's traveling all the time with their child, and I can't even leave my door without my child throwing a tantrum. Me, for example, right? Or look at this child, 2.5, and they're reading, and my child doesn't even know how to hold the book, right? Like, and I think now with social media, it's becoming even more and more of a compare between children, which is not good. We know that like you mentioned.
Yeah. We actually talk to our student in the university classroom. The students are really good at finding information, but they are not good at like which is the good information to trust. It's actually like apply to everyone in this society because it's easy to find information out there online, and easy to look at what others are doing in YouTube and everywhere. But we need to find the way, what's the best way for me, and then what's the best information for me and for my child. So if you hear or watch something and then you are interested in that, then search, the academic journal or research-based studies, so you could find, okay, this is a good information, I can take it, or this information might need more time to get approved. Things like that.
Yeah, that's true. And a lot of us who don't have, for example, access to like an academic journal, right? We're not telling you go ahead and buy a $20 article. That's insane. I'm not doing that. But one thing that you can do, you can look for these websites like NACE. There's also other reliable organizations that publish free and open access.
Usually org, like organization, org has a really good information, trustworthy.
So you can definitely look into that. Do your do your research, ask others what they think. I honestly sometimes get emails from people, from like community members, asking me their opinion, what I think about something. So you feel free to reach out to an expert in that field that lives in your community. So the next question that I have for you, Dr. Young Choi, is about a concern that I actually reached out a lot of times to you with, right? So if a parent has a concern about a language delay, what is the first step that they should follow, or what should they do?
I think first of all, you need to talk to the teachers. So because a teacher and parents will be the person who see your child the most,
Yeah.
right? Most of the time. So, and then especially the teacher could compare with other children. The reason the comparison is about like we know that there is a developmental differences between the children, but if it is a significant delay or not, we could see that. So ask your teacher about that. If teacher agrees with, definitely reach out to the doctors about it and get the diagnosis about the delay. But yeah, I think that's it. That's
Yeah.
because you don't want to unnecessarily worry about anything, you know. So the teacher is the first. If it is a school district, the psychologists will be there. Definitely need to talk to them, and then go from there. School, if it is a school, not the preschool, you know, the private preschool. If it is a CCSD preschool, they have a good referral kind of a process. So to follow those process.
Yeah, there is a referral process, and there is. I think that's a really good recommendation to talk to the teacher. And sometimes you also have to advocate for your
Oh, yeah.
child, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I think when I wrote this question is because I've actually reached out to you many times with the concern that my daughter might have a language delay, and it's funny because I knew this information, but as a parent, sometimes we're a little irrational. You know, you told me she's bilingual. Their bilingual children take a little longer. And I knew this. But even knowing this, right, and having a PhD in language acquisition, it was still something that I worried about because that's your child, right? And you have those worries. I'm happy to announce she's 2.5, and this is when now her language have started spiking, right?
Yes, yes.
But I was the type of parent
Yeah.
that was looking on social media at other parents with a 1.5-year-old saying 3 word sentences, and here's my
know,
mom, my
yes.
daughter, not talking like that, right?
Yes. So the bilingual children, some bilingual children, like from the beginning, they say two different language in a different like context, like
Yeah.
school, at home, really simultaneously. But some child might take a longer. If it is like a completely different situation, like home is completely like a Korean speaking, the school is completely English speaking, then child need to figure it out. Okay, I know a car in English, but what am I saying a car at home? So need those connection and like alignment. They need to figure it out. They also need to figure it out what context, what should I say, which language. So those things, once they all the schemata actually connected, they will spit it out so many different ways. So there is a little, some kids a little more time than the other kids. So just pay attention and keep doing what you are doing, like a conversation, read a book with them and engage with them. And if you see differences, like different, for example, if your child not like eye contact with you or not eye contact with other people, there might be a signal. So you might ask us some help or experts' opinion. But as long as your child is good with the interaction with the people and does not have any like a specific symptom, then you might just take a time and we'll see. But if you worry, then definitely go take a, ask a help and experts' opinion. I don't think that's a bad thing also.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Thank you. So I only have 2 more questions left. And the question that I have now asks about ways that parents can advocate for their child when they know they need more support from their school. And I think this is something that I read a lot about in, for example, like social media, right? On parent support groups. Like I think my son or daughter or my nephew, etc., needs more support in X area and they're not giving it at school. What are some ways that you can push or ask for more advocacy for your child?
So keep in mind, you definitely have a right to ask support, but also teacher has 20 different children in
Yeah.
their classroom. I want, I think a best way is doing like a teacher and parents conference or set up a meeting with the teacher like a quiet time, not like when you drop off your child or
Yeah.
when you pick up your child. That time is really like a casual conversation, not
Yeah.
deep conversation. So set up a meeting with the teacher and uh, say about your concern and what you need. That would be great your child have this type of support, and ask a teacher what can she or he do for your child. Other parents and teacher, we have the same goal. For the children, their development and their learning, we have the same goal. We are not the enemy, or
Yeah.
so keep in mind that. But teacher has 20 different children also.
Yeah.
So if you have a like honest conversation about that, and then teacher provide a certain solution or support, then I want you to, as a parent, to do the same way at home, because a home school connection is the most critical. If school does a way of behavioral intervention, but the home does a different, completely different way of behavioral guidance, then that's not going to effective at all. So ask what teacher doing in the classroom, and then try to do support better at home also. For example, learning letters. If
Yeah.
the teacher actually try to support your child learn the letters, all letters, then you do at the same time at home, then it's going to really accelerate, you know. So homeschool connection is important, and have a conversation with the teacher, and then mindful about teacher have 20 different children about that. So so that's, I think, a really good, just the beginning of the how it's you advocate your child. So yes.
Yeah, and I think something that I've learned a lot about, and it's through working with this grant, is that even there's a lot of local organizations that support children with different purposes and objectives in mind. So, for example, if you want more support in literacy for your children, a great local organization here in Las Vegas is Spread the Word Nevada, right? And this is an organization that gives free monthly books to families. And these books come with recommendations on how to read them effectively. They have their own private Facebook group where that gives more support to parents to do that. But there's also other organizations. What was the other ones that work directly with, for example, children with disabilities? PEP. And that's the Nevada PEP. Do you remember what PEP stands for?
It's not.
Oh, does it stand for
Yeah,
anything?
it's a
Okay.
PEP. Yeah, family engagement empowerment, something like
Okay.
that. Yeah.
Okay.
So Nevada PEP.
Nevada.
NVPEP.org.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's another great organization to reach out to if you have concern about a disability,
Yeah.
right?
Yes, they have a lot of strategy at home also, and you could also ask teachers. Yes,
Yeah.
ask teachers, what can I do? What can I support you better? Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And I had mentioned a couple weeks back on another podcast about the Right Care Clinic that we have here in Nevada that's free and does these assessments for free for families. So there's definitely other venues if you might feel like you need more support than your teacher might be able to provide, because to Dr. Young Choi's point, they have 20 students, right? So it is a little harder to give that individualized attention that your child might need, or that you feel like your child needs to have at the time. Okay, so the last question that I have for you, what are some resources that you recommend for parents or for teachers to be aware of when they're trying to learn more about this stage of their child's life?
So we just mentioned about NACI and about PEP. I think that's most accessible and easy to use at home and for parents. I think that's most important. True
Yeah.
website. I don't want it to have like a tens of different and then don't know how to use it. So start over there. And if you have a specific kind of a question about social emotional, then there is a social emotional kind of a learning because these days the social emotional is so critical.
Yeah.
There is a castle. I forgot what stand for, but the castle, it's a social emotional learning. If you search castle, they have a lot of information also, and yeah.
And why? Well, you mentioned social emotional learning, and I'm curious to know why. Well, what is social emotional learning, and why is it so important for kids to know this?
So these days, your child was born 2020, right? It's like in the middle of a pandemic.
Yeah.
So when she first went to daycare was like a 2020 first or 20, or some parents keep their children longer enough,
Yeah.
right? So 2022, so the first time they see people, and especially the COVID time was a lockdown. It wasn't just a stay at home. It wasn't really like we didn't see any people out there. There was
Yeah.
no social contact, like going to the supermarket or like say hello to random people. There was no that kind of like event at all. So it's a different, like they grew up kind of a first couple of years, most important years without any human contact.
Yeah.
So there was a very narrow down their social emotional skill because there was just a parent or
Yeah.
sibling or grandparents and things like that. So having with the children with the other peers is important for social skill to develop. We says about social emotional is really foundational during the early years because it's a perspective taking. So how I feel, how you feel, we need to
Yeah.
understand that. So that's why then, like if I understand why you're upset during play, then we could do problem solving, or we could do the talk it out.
Yeah.
So the play is important. That way, the children solve the problem and understand others' feeling, what others are doing. But a lot of children these days, a lack of that opportunity. Even older children, the COVID definitely hit hard. They did not. The first thing they learn, okay, mute yourself, unmute yourself. Like they literally hard to look at really peer's eyes and
Yeah.
then like how are you, or like doing a play. So those missing opportunity, I think, are really critical
Yeah.
for those children. So think about it, only kind of a good relationship actually predict what you're gonna establish your social relationship later.
Yeah.
So if you don't have, or if your child struggle with it now, you actually need to talk about it. Start with how I feel, how you feel, understand the feeling,
Yeah.
and then give them a language about emotional literacy. So I'm happy because I blah blah blah, I'm sad because blah blah blah, and then like kind of demonstrate how you feel, and then elicit what they are feeling,
Yeah.
and then those feeling, kind of understanding others' feeling, can help the children. Oh, if I do this way, some others get upset, or I'm making that person sad. So understand the feeling is really important to
Yeah.
communication.
And I think that's one thing that as parents you can really work on in your home, right?
Yeah.
Like teaching children to name feelings. Sometimes the reason why a child has a tantrum is because they don't know, or they're not able to have the abilities to name what they're feeling.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, exactly.
And I've been in classrooms where a first grader is so frustrated that I've seen first graders grab a box full of pencils and just throw it against the wall and scream and all do all these things. And this is where social emotional learning comes into play, because for that child, he was feeling so frustrated that he wasn't able to express that frustration. So he resorted to physical, physical actions. So one thing that I think it is very important is when your child is having a hard time is being able to name those feelings. You're feeling sad. Yes. You're feeling frustrated. Yes. I see that you're very happy right now.
Exactly.
And I even have this book that I've used with my daughter, and it's called Unmasking Feelings. And it is one of those flip books that, and on one page there's the child smiling, and on the other page the child has a mask on because of COVID, right? So you needed to be able to say,
figure it out.
Figure out how do you think this child is feeling, because during that time you couldn't see anyone's face.
Yes. So what is it? The social emotional kind of expression is sometimes some culture kind of prohibited, like especially Korea, the boys don't cry, or like there is a certain gender stereotypical, like the kind of you don't do that, girls don't do that or boys don't do that. But I think these days, social emotional and express my feeling, understand others' feeling is critical, because we've been really spend a lot of time with online, and we somehow missing those importance, like teach or express by myself to you or to you to others. We kind of missing those kind of opportunities. So teach them, how you feel and why you feel that way. And also the children, we, in preschool classroom, we said, use your word, but some kids that might not have words. Yes. So even just simple, happy, sad, if they don't really explicitly taught, they don't know what's happy and sad, because they just assume, is this a happy? Is this when she said sad? Is this a sad? So explicitly teach about the language about it and identify it. That's a big step for the young children. And then go from there, you can do much more complex feeling, overwhelming, things like that. So yes.
Yeah, that's a really good recommendation. And I think, like you mentioned, using books. I mean, using books in general, it can be really easy because every children's books are different, like images with face in them. And I remember that last night I was reading this book to my daughter, and it's about a red hen, and the red hen is very mad at one page, and you can see their head being like, "Ugh." And I was like, oh my God, how do you think this hen is feeling? She was like, she's mad. I was like, yeah, she's mad. So that can be another way to introduce emotions. So those were all the questions that I had.
We're done.
We are almost done. My last question is, if any of our viewers have any questions or they would like to reach you, I know you're not big on social media, so what are some ways that they could get in contact with you?
Email me, please.
Email?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's your email of preference to share?
School email.
Your school email?
Yeah.
It's young. Dr. Choi at nsc.edu.
Young.Choi, nsc.edu.
Yes. Perfect. I'll put it down on the description box. Please spam her with emails. Okay, well, thank you so much, Fred.
Cheers. Thank you so much. It was fun.
This was delicious, y'all. You need to try this. It's really good. Bye.